Hi, Dennis. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Very
Good,
good.
good. So, Nine Below Zero actually halfway through a UK tour with Dr Feelgood. How's
Yeah,
that tour going?
very well, thank you. Yeah, we've done about 9 or 10 now, and when I go out into the audience after the shows, the reaction's really good. People very genuinely warm about both bands, and I think it's a really good package. You got the Feel Goods with all their hits, and you got us. Um, I think people just walk away really, really happy. And from our point of view, it's very satisfying knowing that job done really.
Yeah, well, you've got a brilliant back catalogue of songs. Is it hard picking a set list these days?
Yeah, yeah. But I've got my son on drums and he helps because he sort of gives everything a new energy and a new sort of drive. So it's nice to along with Mark and Anthony, someone will say, "Oh, we haven't done this one for a long time," and then we'll do it in a sound check, and we get the right result. I mean, we started out with a set, and then now it's completely different. So that it sort of evolves. And I'm a great one for just looking at the audience, looking at the feel of the club, feeling it, and then thinking, I think we'll do this one tonight. We'll start with that one. We'll try that. So I have a master set list which I pick songs out of rather than a strict set list because sometimes you're playing and you look down at a set and you think, oh no, that one I don't feel that at the moment. So then you got that bit of leverage to adjust and make the right decision. So like if you're really steaming and on the list is a slow blues, and you think, no, let's do one more up tempo or mid tempo one. But it pans out in the end.
You've played a lot of shows over the years. Is there any favourites that stand out to you?
I enjoyed I enjoyed the 100 Club, the Marquees. I enjoyed um, I enjoyed. We played in Darlington Square. I enjoyed that. We played Reading Rock Festival. I enjoyed that. Hammersmith Odeon. I enjoyed. In the States, I really enjoyed the American audience. They're really up for it, and they're in when it says 6:30 doors or seven. Most of the people I found in America were in the hall. Whereas in England, there's a little bit of I'll stay in a pub and miss the opening act or whatever. I mean, I never did that as a kid. When I went to see Rory Gallagher or Deep Purple or Muddy Waters or BB King, Chuck Berry, when I went to all those concerts, I was at the door and I was one of the first in. And I used to get there and I'd look at the back line and all the little red lights on the amps and just probably imagine one day I'd like to do that. So I got in there early, and of course, for example, I went to see Dr. Feelgood in 1975, I think, and Squeeze opened up for them. Yeah, so 75, I went to see Dr. Feelgood, and Squeeze opened up for them, and you know, you'd missed that. I never. There was one band opened up for Rory Gallagher called Greenslade, and they didn't have a guitar, and I was like most disgusted. I thought, how can a band not have a guitarist? But no, I saw every opening act, and I'll be there from the off. So America's good for that. Um, but so many great shows, great festivals, little venues. Some of the little venues we've played. Like we used to play JB's in Dudley up there, um, and that was amazing, amazing shows up there. Scotland, wow, had some great shows up in Scotland. Uh, and one very special one in Northern Ireland where the rubber bullets were coming through the window. There was a we were one of the very few bands who went to Northern Ireland in the Troubles, and they got so like excited that we came. There was a stage invasion and everything, and it all kicked off in a nice, enthusiastic way. and so that was pretty damn special over there. Um, so really, I've got some wonderful memories.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. When did you first take an interest in music then?
What's that, mate?
When did you first take an interest in music?
My granddad used to play any instrument, uh, and he would have harmonica in the house, a keyboard, a guitar, a ukulele, and I think I got, my two uncles were massive blues fans, and I used to love their record collection. Um, my mum and dad always had music in the house, whether it be Adam Faith and Frank Sinatra, of course. My dad loved the crooners, Al Jolson, Al Bowley. So always had music in the house, and I think that sort of did, you know, drip feed into me. Um, and I think, like a lot of kids my age, Top of the Pops, when you saw the Who on Top of the Pops or the Small Faces. Um, and then my love of the blues, and I just went so into it. I've got a picture of me in 1977 in the middle of the punk era, dressed like Rory Gallagher. I was so, I didn't follow that trend, but I love what punk did, where it enabled anybody to just form a band. And the music scene in London around 76, 77, all the clubs and the pubs was amazing. You could go and see any band from Monday to Sunday in London. It was astonishing times. And I got the bug for that, really. Uh, but I suppose the Eric Clapton Beano album, with John Mayall, uh, really made me want to play lead guitar, and I started to study that through my uncle's record collection. Um, there's a few albums I've got up in my loft where I've got the cassette, the CD, and the vinyl. You know what I mean? And that John Mayall album is one of them.
It must have been pretty surreal then for you opening up for like Eric Clapton and the Kinks then later on.
Oh, I tell you, you're spot on. I thought the other day, especially Alvin Lee. I've got, I really fell in love with Alvin from Woodstock. So '69, I went to see the film, and like a lot of people, fell in love with 10 years after and Alvin Lee, and then I toured America with him 20 odd years later, and then he gave me two of his Marshall 4x12 cabinets, and one's got his name on the flight case. And I look at that sometimes and I think, bloody hell, I actually played with that man, and I idolised him, when I used to go and see him, and then to play with him, and then to stand on stage with Billy Gibbons and Eric Clapton. Yeah, I have to pinch myself. And I worked with Peter Frampton a lot, writing some songs. Yeah, I can't believe it, really. Sometimes I pinch myself because, when I was 13 in my bedroom and, playing to those guys. Mick Ralph's another one. You know, my big regret, I never got to see Free. I would have liked to see Free, but I saw Bad Company's first gig in 1974. And then I worked with Mick Ralphs and played with Mick Ralphs. And just sitting in the same room with them and playing with them, I can't believe it, really.
When did you decide you wanted to be in a band then and form a band?
Well, after seeing Dr. Feelgood on the old grow whistle test, I went to school the next day and formed a band. It was a combination of, like, they made me want to be in the band. I thought they were so cool, and I never had the drive until I saw them on the whistle test, and things just connect with you, like minded. There was rhythm and blues in there, and there, I was buying clothes. Their clothes looked like the ones I was buying from the Salvation Army, secondhand shoes, dead man shoes, and suits and shirts, And when I saw them on a whistle test, I went to school the next day and got together with Pete Clark and Kenny Bradley, Steve Hutchins, and all my old schoolmates, and we formed a band. You know, my whole band comes from Wolves School, except Mark Felton. He was across the bridge in Bermondsey, and we was on the other side of the Walworth Road. But fantastic times. And there's still only like one. I mean, I can't believe this in England was produced so much wonderful music and bands. There's one music show dedicated to live music, like Jules Holland's show, and
Yeah,
that's it. You know, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic, really.
yeah, it's
Should
crazy.
be more live. You know, if you go to Greece, right, you put the telly on, and most of the television shows have got live bands in them still. You know, they're very much it's the authentic, Greek music, or it could be like even if it was Celebrity Get Me Out of there, Athens, they would be having live music and musicians playing. You know, and I come back home and it's devoid of live bands playing new material, and we're not getting exposed to this, such great talent we got out there and producing. We just, you know, I mean, what do? They show Glastonbury, and that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
a year, you know, they'll put that up, but yeah, it's a little bit, upsetting that there's not a lot more live music on our television. You know,
Why do you think
so
that is?
do you know? I don't know. I can't. Ronnie's back. Hey, Ronnie. Um, I don't know. As I say, we had Top of Pops. That's gone now. I know that was miming. We had the Tube. That was a great program, wasn't it? The Tube. Switch. I think there was. So when I was playing in the 80s, OTT we did. There was a lot more shows like OTT. The Tiz was for adults. Had live bands on, you know, and but now. No, everything's miming. Everything's. I think it's image over substance at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of TV shows, you actually played on the first episode of The Young Ones, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. There's a comedy program interjected with live music from bands that I think the guys saw us at Warwick University or one of them. I mean, I think we that was a pilot show that we did. Um, so they shot that in March, and then I think it was released in October later in the year. So they shot the pilot show, and then the BBC commissioned the rest of the series, I think. But that was amazing. We turned up, and like Ben Elton was the warm up artist, and just I'd not seen humour. The only humour I've seen like that was in our band and in the bus and on the road. You know, we were stupid, young, and naive, and everything that Rick Mal's character was, and the humour, the stunts, and then we saw someone making a television program with the same humour. It was really refreshing, um, and quite an honour to get the first one. But I think was it Motorhead, Madness, quite a few bands were on that, weren't they? But that was great. So you got, again, a live band in a comedy show.
Did you
I, I,
enjoy play? Oh,
I,
sorry.
yeah, go man. I just think I think it wasn't it in the chart. There's not been a band in the charts having a number one record of top 10 for the last year and a half or something. It'll come back, I suppose. Even the Beatles, when they were trying to get a record deal, they said, bands were finished. They wanted duets and lead singers, like Adam Faith or something. Hopefully, it'll come around again. Oasis and Blur and those guys was like the last big generation. Supergrass and all those guys. A few more bands like that wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had like a proper
Yeah,
music scene in it.
yeah, yeah. Proper guitar bands,
Yeah, yeah.
four ugly geezers up on stage. Love it.
So we've spoke about not many TV shows being on telly now, like about music. Did you enjoy going on like Top of the Pops and Old Grey Whistle Test?
hated Top of the Pops. I did Top of the Pops twice with the Truth. And I used to be a good dinner party one, years ago when people said to me, "Oh, you was on Top of the Pops." Oh yeah, I'd have a glass of wine and sit there and talk about Top of the Pops. But I can't do it now because Jimmy Savile and David Lee Travers were the ones who introduced us. So I keep my mouth shut now. But I hated Top of the Pops because we mimed. I didn't know that when I was watching the Kinks and the Who and the Small Faces back in the '60s. It didn't matter so much if they were miming, but being an artist and going on and miming, it just wasn't me. But the old grey whistle test was live, us playing live in the studio, much more comfortable doing that. Being a working musician, you want to play your instrument. But Top of the Pops was, yeah, it was great to do, but the miming thing, I'm probably just useless at it.
Speaking of live shows, though, you got a record deal for a live show with A&M, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember that day?
What a great label they were. This is when, again, maybe talking about bands and record companies, how the business has changed nowadays. There's no artist development. There's no. We trusted our record company. We got signed by A&M from playing, in a pub, and they developed us. And we had 3 albums out with A&M, and they wanted a fourth when we split up. We split up for just been working too hard. Where you going, Ron? Just working too hard, and being pretty tired. And they wanted a fourth album. They said, we've come all this way with you. We've developed you, and of course we were young and tired, and we split up. But they wanted to bring out another fourth album, which would have been interesting. But I went and formed the Truth for 7 or 8 years, and then came back to 9 Below Zero in 1980, and I signed to the same guy, Derek Green. He had China Records then, and he's the one who signed us at A&M. He signed 4 guys from a pub, and within 9 months we played Hammersmith Odeon. That sort, do you know what I mean? That sort of like knowing how to develop and to put us in with the Kinks, put us out with the Who, and really sort of put us in the studio with Glyn Johns, one of the top producers in the world at the time. Just stuff like that. We were really fortunate. And A&M were a great label like that. They were still independent then. But now everything's been gobbled up. There's only a couple of record companies, Sony and Universal. They've gobbled everybody up. But, whereas back in the day, you had those independent record companies who could develop artists, not give them too much money. I think we got $5,000 when we signed, And then later on, the business went nuts and they were trying to, chase bands and offer them silly money. But what people have to realise is it's only a loan and you got to pay it back.
Yeah.
So it's better to sign someone, really cheap and develop them, and not have to be under pressure to get all that money back. Slowly develop them, mate. I mean, I was looking at Fleetwood Mac's catalogue the other day. So I was looking at you've got 2 sides of Fleetwood, well, 3 actually. So you've got like Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac and a blues band, and then they got, I think his name was Bob Welch or something, came in and played guitar. They'd done 3 or 4 albums before they got to Rumours. Do you know what I mean? And that lineup, that wouldn't happen now.
No.
After Peter Green, they would have been dumped. But they was able to continue, still experiment, and with another guitarist. And then they found Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. And it just came up the other day. I was just looking at the discography and how it developed. You wouldn't, if the record company had panicked, you wouldn't have had Rumours, and you wouldn't have had the great stuff that they produced later on. That's gone now. You got one album, and if it don't happen, you're gone. And that's where that you don't get the chance to develop as an artist. I mean, if you look at our harmonica player Mark Felton, he's playing better now than he's ever played, and that's experience. that's like that knowledge that he's got there, having played with so many people on these sessions, toured with Rory Gallagher, Zucchero, played with Tom Jones, he's Nigel Kennedy. He's been like, all over the place in styles and stuff like that. But all that knowledge has come together now. And when I stand on stage with him, it's astonishing what he's doing with a little instrument that big with 10 holes, magnificent anyway. Yeah, Mark's playing better than ever.
Yeah, good, good. It's all like pop music now. It's all manufactured as well, and it's all just a money grab, in it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, everybody, you know, using the computer with the same sounds in it. We used to generate our own sounds, with our guitar, our minds, and our fingers, and our amplifiers. Put it in a room and capture. Glyn Johns will talk about 4 human beings in a room. I think even Rick Rubin talks about it, where you've got 4 people in a room and you're working off each other and moving air together. There's nothing like it. And as soon as you use computers, you're taking that all out. So it's much more of a processed thing. There's a big thing about processed food at the moment. How unhealthy it is. Well, processed music is just as unhealthy. And of course, now if you put AI into the equation, you don't know what you're getting. So we've got to be really careful that we as humans make sure that we are giving our soul and our heart to something rather than letting technology take it over.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless it's already too late. Don't know.
We spoke about playing live. Your first album was a live album, which is
Yeah.
pretty unusual. How did that come about?
Yeah, we weren't ready. I said A&M signed us from the Thompson Beckett, and we looked at. I got the idea from the Yardbirds. I think the Yardbirds, one of their first albums was live at the Marquee, and we thought, well, look, we need to buy 6 months, 9 months. None of us wrote. Our manager pushed us in a room to write. So in order to just buy a bit of time, let's put a live album out. And then we got the tour with the Kinks. And then we went in the studio for the second one with Glyn Johns. And I'd written a few songs by then. Don't Point Your Finger album. And then started to develop with Third Degree, which was completely self-penned with the original songs. But we weren't ready. So the live album was perfect, and the venue was just the best in the world. I've never known a club in all my travels like the Marquee Club. You walk down the corridor, and there was all the programs from the shows from the early '60s, and you just pick one, and the bands that played there that week. It was fantastic. I saw the Jam's first gig there as well, and the following week AC/DC first gig in London. That sort of pedigree that club had was amazing. So, and at the time they had a 24-track studio at the back of the studio, so they just plugged the microphones into the wall. Oh, my battery's going to go, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
sorry. Yeah, they had the studio already plumbed in. It was amazing.
How much battery have you got left?
Oh, not much. Let me see if I can. I'll go to the kitchen.
All right, no worries. Yeah.
I've got a plug.
So what was it like going in the studio for Don't Point Your Finger?
Amazing. We was in Olympic Studios, and Glyn had worked there and played with the Who there and the Rolling Stones. Pretty damn amazing, really. So we're in this room with Glyn Johns, and we hardly got any work done. We were asking him about, when he was there with the Who and the Stones, and then his work with the Beatles on Let It Be. So we got a couple of hours work done a day, but the rest was just a musical history lesson. I love Glyn. He was a bit of a school teacher, But we certainly learnt a lot. And he let the band develop. He recorded us live in the studio, but it was that four human beings working off each other, and very much like if you didn't have the talent, he was recording you. He didn't say, "Okay, we'll sample your snare and then we'll loop that in and connect it to a drum machine," and then it was none of that. It was all just really the band giving what they had and him capturing it on tape. 24 track, wonderful times.
Well, he recorded the third album. How come they didn't go with that version?
Yeah, Glyn was the house producer for A&M Records, and he built a studio in his house. And the talk is he just got a bit comfortable, because it was at the end of the garden, and he produced a couple of things for A&M, and they weren't happy, and we were moving on. So Don't Point Your Finger was perfect for us at that time of our career and life. By the time we got the Third Degree, we probably wanted a little bit more of a different sound, which he wasn't prepared to give us. But we recorded the album with him. A&M rejected it and put us in with Simon Boswell. But most of the songs are already recorded and played with Glyn. We just re-recorded them. Just times really that changed. Sound changed within 6 months. I think a lot of things changed sonically. So we were probably looking to try and compete with that, really.
Well, every so often you release an album and new material. Is that
Yeah,
important for you and the band?
very much. Yeah. So Avalanche was the last one. Very important. I formed our own record company in the year 2000 because we just couldn't get the record deals anymore. And the record companies weren't interested in anyone like us. So we sort of went into small cottage industry, and what that enables us to do is to spend 20,000-30,000 on an album, recoup that money, and then make another one. We're not making any money from our records, but what it's doing is it's enabling us to produce new albums or best ofs or back catalogs. It's we've got Live at the Marquee coming out now on a really lovely special red vinyl in homage to the Marquee in the 60s. The first Marquee was red and white, so we sort of paid homage to that. So that's coming out. Avalanche was last 2019. Since then, we've had what did we do? Me and Mark made an album called Denmark, How Original, which is all our acoustic stuff put together. That's a lovely package. So as we're getting to the end of our career, we're sort of ticking things off. Like we put the best acoustic ultimate collection together. We've got the catalogue, Live at the Marquee, Double Thing, a Third Degree from A&M, going to come out on coloured vinyl, add additional tracks, and then I want to do a best of A to Z, where we put together along with some new tracks. All we've done with Z Records since the year 2000. I can't find. I can't seem to get from. I don't know who owns Off the Hook, On the Road Again, and Ice Station Zebra that we did for China Records. That's not even on Spotify, so I don't know where they are. But that's part of me trying to track down all everything that we've done and repackage it and make it interesting and put it out on vinyl as well. It's I've like everybody, I've got 2 record players now in the house, one in my music room in the loft and one in the living room, and you just forget how warm and soft and lovely the sound of the vinyl is. Plus my kids as well, they're buying vinyl. So that's, like I say, with rock and roll bands, 4 blokes playing their instruments might come back one day, as vinyl has.
Yeah, yeah.
I still like the sound of CDs. I still like the process of CDs. I still have a CD player in my car. I really like that choice of playing what I want to play, when I want to hear it. That's another thing where modern cars don't have CD players. Who made that decision for us, really?
In 83 to 89, you played with
Yeah,
The Truth. How do
yeah.
you look back on those days?
Oh, yeah, fondly. Because I got to go to America and record, and I lived there for 6 months. And me and Mick Lister went out there, and toured as well. We toured in '85, and I really enjoyed my time more in the studio, where I was listening to engineers and seeing how they sonically work differently to English engineers. Um, and I met some wonderful musicians, and that was a really productive 7 years. Wrote that's another 3 albums that we produced with The Truth. Got to write with some great people, and I thoroughly enjoyed that time. Yeah, I don't know where it went. It just went so quick. But towards the end, you know, like some things, most things, they all does come to an end. We'd served our time, and I got the offer from Mark Felton, who was playing with Jerry and Brendan from Roy Gallagher's band, to put Nine Below Zero back together, and that was another really interesting time, playing with those guys. But the truth, it was a tough one because we had 2 hit singles, and then the record company. I remember we did we did a convention for Warner Brothers, and they just signed Howard Jones and The Truth, and more or less you could just feel it in the room that they didn't want to promote The Truth, a band. Nick Kershaw was flying at the time as well, so you had all these single sort of artists that were popular at the time, and that night I remember, they sort of chose Howard Jones over The Truth, and basically dropped us. And that's just the way the business goes.
Do you think with both bands, they were maybe before the time, like they didn't suit that era? Not that
Could
it's
have.
the era, but like
I've, yeah, I've definitely been against the grain. Definitely,
yeah, yeah.
forming a blues band in the middle of punk, and then you know, a modest sort of pop soul band in the middle of New Romantics, I suppose. Um, yeah, yeah, I think it's probably yeah, just it's out of time, really. But you know, see you later, guys. Yeah, so yeah, probably not ahead of their time, maybe behind the times.
Maybe it's brilliant though that you've stuck to your own roots and what you've wanted to do instead of going down that like mainstream route.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely not a mainstreamer in anything I do in my life. All everything I read, everything I look at, films. There's very little. Uh, I'm definitely not a mainstreamer. You know, I don't like the big corporate concerts that people ticket prices that people are being forced to pay to watch an artist and really just see the screens, up there. Um, no, I don't like it. The cost of the tickets is a joke. I was talking last night to someone, and I think I went to see, you know, some of the bands I was looking at in like mid 70s to the early 80s was 50p a ticket, a pound a ticket. I've got Jeff Beck tickets up there, £2. I know, you know, we've all got to make money, but it just seems that the top 1-10% are making all the money, and it's not dribbling down. Although I did hear the other day, I think the government brought something in where if there's an arena gig of over more than 10,000, a pound of the ticket um, price will go towards grassroots venues, because if we don't support the grassroots venues, there won't be your Adele's. I'm going up the Cavern in Liverpool next week, and in the dressing room there's a picture of Supergrass, Adele, and all these. And we was in a club the other night, and Sonny noticed there was a couple of bands that played there that really went on to be monsters. And that's what was them. Oh no, it's in the other stuff. That's all right. I was just saying, yeah. So grassroots is really important. So that's a really nice thing that's come in, that you're getting that triple down effect, where you're investing in the grassroots. Because if we don't, where's the next big band?
Yeah, are you
who's gonna headline Glastonbury?
are you seeing that with playing live then, that it's kind of dying down a little bit with grassroots venues?
Yeah. There's a lot closing down. Um, and we've just played the Horn in St Albans, and we've played the Half Moon Putney. In order to, I mean, basically, tribute bands are keeping a lot of those clubs open. The Fleece in Bristol, the Flower Pot in Derby. There's some great little venues, but mainly filled up with tribute bands. There's not enough young bands or original bands coming through. We need to make sure that we don't lose that connection. So if all you've got is Taylor Swift and Oasis playing the Enormo Domes, or tribute bands playing your local pubs and clubs, then once that link is broken, we're not going to have some original bands come through who then could go on to be, big and successful. I suppose, it's again image over substance.
So we've mentioned every so often you bring the new material out. We mentioned you're
Yeah,
halfway through a tour with Dr Feelgood.
yes.
So what is the future like for Nine Below Zero?
Yeah, we've got acoustic tour next year, and but basically, when you're a working band, and like what where we are in our career, you're sort of on the hamster wheel. You're sort of going round and round. And I think as long as, when I look at my diary and there's dates in the diary and people want to see us, and as I said to you when we first spoke about the people coming up to me and really saying some lovely things about, don't give up, please, we need this genre of music to survive. That it gives me confidence to think, we can continue. Um, and I'll always advocate, the blues, and push that as much as I can. But it's getting smaller and smaller and getting harder and harder. So this is, why we try and encourage. I mean, I got some young artists to open up for us, and help out. I've always done that from the beginning. I think one of the early people that supported us was Alison Moyet when she was in a band in Southend. We played a place called Shrimpers, and this young girl turned up, and so everybody starts somewhere. We just got to make sure that they have the opportunity, and the venues and the support. I mean, the government grants, or the support that the government give this country is for the arts, is disgraceful. Nobody wants to pay a little bit extra to have the arts and crafts.
Yeah, we
So
mentioned like mainstream acts before, and their fans will come and go. But with a band like Nine Below Zero, you'll have loyal fans all the way through, won't you?
yeah, very much so, very much. And that's evident on this tour. Really, really loyal fans. And thankfully they love what we do and appreciate what we do. And as long as we the energy's great with the band. We don't just go through the motions. That's very important as well. When you've been around for 45 years like we have, you got to leave everything on stage, mate. Just deliver, and they seem to appreciate that.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast. It's been great to speak to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Eden.
Right, thank you. See you in a bit.
Take care, mate. Bye,
You
everyone.
too.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.